therapy is, because it is so beautifully, it is going to be personalized for you. Just make sure that you give it a try. But even when you're giving it a try, make sure that the person is licensed, the person has a degree.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Press IBM Pune. And your host for this episode. Today, we are going to explore mental health from a broad perspective, dive into the different therapies available, and finally, take a deep look at hypnotherapy, a practice that's gaining popularity for its unique approach to healing. Joining me today is Ms. Spreeha Bezbaruah, the Chief Psychologist at Socially Sold. Spreeha is sculpting the contours of mental well being with a multifaceted role as a practitioner, trainer, and guidance counselor. Spreeha leverages her keen observational skills to resonate with and uplift individuals. A staunch advocate for universal mental health, she's on a mission to ensure everyone enjoys the mental tranquility they rightfully deserve. Welcome to the podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you here, Spreeha.
Thank you so much, Tushar and team. It is absolutely wonderful to be back again. It's amazing. Thank you.
So let's begin at the top. Mental health has become such a significant part of our daily conversations, but many people still don't fully understand what it encompasses. Could you
True.
start by explaining how you define mental health and why it's so crucial?
Okay, so it's actually a very good question because we in our day-to-day lives we keep using the word mental health without actually sometimes understanding what all it entails. But I will not go into like a definition given by a theorist, but in like a very simple terms, you see, mental health is not just not having a disorder or not having a mental health issue. In simple words, it is also about having mental well-being. So you see, as a psychologist or as a practitioner, any mental health practitioner, our aim is not just to have clients so that, we are able to help them to not have a disorder, but also how you can become more fully functional. So a lot of people, they actually ask me, like, whenever I meet them, they tell me that I don't have OCD, I don't have depression, so why should I come to you? But you don't always have to come to a practitioner, but that does not mean that you don't have other mental health concerns, right? You will not find a person who is able to be as fully functional all the time. Everyone is suffering from something or the other. You ask anyone in your college, anyone in your neighborhood, everyone will have some or the other problem they're focusing
True.
and they're going through, right? So mental health in very simple terms is not just taking care of your mental well-being, but it's also making sure that you are able to fully function, you are able to do well for yourself, not just again mentally, but also physically at the same time. So it's like a balance with both of them.
Great. So I get that mental health is about overall mental and emotional well-being, which is essential
Mhm.
for living a fulfilling life, basically. Despite this,
Correct.
we still see that mental health carries a lot of stigma around it. So why do you think that is?
Hmm. I think a lot of stigma is coming from the understanding, if you go into like a very evolutionary perspective, it's coming a lot from how it was believed that if you have a disorder, that means you were actually possessed. We used to have this priest and like even in Rajasthan, as a matter of fact, today also we have this place near Bhangar Fort,
Yeah.
and I had visited it because I was really interested that there will be a ghost or something. And then I went, and there was this very small mandir next to Bhangar Fort, and everything else was very plain. And this priest was sitting there. And then that's when he told me that if you go straight from here, I think he mentioned at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the evening. He gave me a time slot. Like you have to go in this timing. And then if you are possessed or someone in your family is possessed, they will do something and then you will be okay. And then I asked them, like, what kind of possession? Like, Bhangar ki bhutni aayegi or something of that sort. And then he said, no, no, जब आजकल लोगों को problems हो रहे हैं, like be it any sort of problem, especially when you're talking about psychosis, you're talking about schizophrenia, a lot of that is actually being possessed by a witch or, all of that. And he was very serious. Like if you speak to him, no, for a second, you will want to like, okay, I think this is true because he's really persuasive. So, a lot of that is coming from all these stories of exorcism that we have heard. And then eventually anything that is not following the social norms, we kind of not tend to follow with it. We kind of tend to outcast it. So, the name itself says disorder. That means you're not following the normative norms of the society. So, automatically, these people, everyone going through a concern, they were kind of outcasted, that, you are not behaving in that normative way, or you are not being a certain way. So, I think that is still going on. I would definitely say a lot of walls are breaking. I would definitely say that, my parents' generation, grandparents' generation, they're really open about it. They're really now talking about it, and they are taking help when they need help. But that is honestly not enough, because it is still the class of people who have access to therapy. And maybe that's why they're able to speak about therapy. You go to any rural areas, because, we do a lot of psychoeducation here. You go to any rural areas, they do talk about how important your mind health is basically. But therapy or coping mechanisms or any sort of training for skills, they are not aware of it. Or even if they are, they don't even want to touch it, and they're very stubborn about it. They don't want to go through it because of all the stereotype and stigma that is just generational in nature now.
So absolutely, I think that things are changing. Like the pace
Hmm.
is still slow, but things are evolving. At least in the urban areas, people are taking up to therapy, and also they are more concerned about the mental health. So
True.
let's talk about identifying these challenges at early stages. I mean, many people might not even realize that they are struggling with their mental health, right? So
True.
what are some signs someone should look out for, either in themselves or in those around them?
So, the best way to actually check about your mental health is via your physical health, because they both are completely interrelated to one another. So, you can always start checking with your biological functioning in terms of three things. Number one is your appetite and your food, number two is your bowel movements, and number three is your sleep pattern. Because these are the first three things that are affected when, somewhere at the back of our mind, something is causing distress to us. Because we are so used to the understanding that हाँ problems तो होंगे
Yeah,
ही, sometimes we don't sit with it and actually think about it, and that starts acting up, and we realize when it's very late, or we realize the day we are throwing a tantrum, and we are just having an outburst, or we are reacting. But that is why keep always having a check on these three things first. So when you see that all of a sudden now you're unable to sleep on your routine time, or suddenly you are sleeping too much than your usual self, and this is not relative, this is on basis of your own experience and observations, or now you're not sleeping at all. So that is one way to see that okay, something is bothering. Because of that your mind is now running. Because of that you're unable to sleep, because for sleep you have to relax first. But if your mind is constantly running, how would you even relax? Right, so you anyhow can't sleep. So that is number one. Number two is your appetite. Eating too much or not eating at all, or binge eating, or eating only junk. Like I have a client, because of her family distress, she only and only eats Maggie. And she, even if her family is cooking amazing food, but she will not touch that food. She will only have Maggie. And it is not coming from the fact that, chalo, there is a problem going on, but it is more like, I don't feel like eating, and Maggie is the only thing. But if you look at it, if you're only eating Maggie, like for the past 1 year, why will your health not deteriorate all the more? Of course it
definitely.
will. Right. So that is one way of it. And the third one is your bowel movements. Like one thing you will notice, like especially people like me who are not very good in maths. So whenever we used to have our examinations, especially before maths examination, you'll know you'll have a bad stomach. You know your appetite will be gone. You know you cannot sleep at night and you're dreaming formulas. So that is also causing me distress, right? That's
Yeah.
examination anxiety. That's causing me problem. So that is how it shows. So these are like first three things to gauge when you believe that something about your mental health is not healthy right now.
Great. That's really helpful. I mean, now I don't think that people need to wait till things really get bad if they keep just
True,
these small checks in their day-to-day life.
true, true.
So once someone has identified that they are having some problems, like even at a minor scale, what would you
Mhm.
recommend for someone who wants to proactively maintain good mental health?
Okay. So, you see, even if someone does not have a concern, in general, everyone, the three things that I mentioned about your biological functioning, that is something you need to have a good routine with. All right. Once you're maintaining your physical health, no, then maintaining mental health also becomes easier. Because trust me, if your mental health is not right, it will only have an effect on your physical health. And then when your physical health deteriorates, it becomes very difficult to come back to your mental health and work on it. And working on physical health is 10 times easier than working on your mental health. Like, I'm not even kidding. There are so many researches on it. So that is why first focus on your physical health, have a healthy lifestyle, try not to, it's completely fine if you want to have chips and cold drink. I know, like, with Coca-Cola people say it is a toilet cleaner and everything. It's fine if you want to have it because you like it, so have it, it's okay, but just don't make it a habit that you have to have it every single day. Have a good lifestyle, have a good nutritious, a balanced diet. Apart from that, now when I'm talking about specifically about your psychology or your mental health, make sure in a day you're doing things for yourself. And it's like, one time I was speaking to one of the DDs here, and I asked her, like, what do you do, because she was really interested what we do in the office. And I asked her, like, what do you do for your mental health? And she told me that, so the Didi basically cleans in the nearby areas and cooks food for other families. So she said that, so when I like really want to feel happy because I had a bad day, I would go back home and I would cook really well for the family. Right. So now see where she's coming from, that is beautiful, right? That she's
Yeah.
doing something for her family. It's making her happy. But you see, this is still doing for someone else. What if she made a absolutely amazing dinner and no one compliments her that day? And someone just points out that, oh, there is too much namak in this, too much salt in this, and someone says that, Mama, I was expecting something else. Now that lady, she was cooking from a perspective that I am cooking to be happy, to make my family happy. But then that would just make her upset. So when I say doing things for yourself, it's beautiful when you do collectivistic thing, but try to do individualistic things as well. Try to see what is it that you do for yourself. A lot of people, they journal, they write beautifully about what all went throughout the day, what are their learnings, what is not. So many people engage in gratitude journaling. So many people watch Netflix because it's fun. Like, I am one of them. Like, having a Netflix series for me is a must, a must. So, what are the things that you are doing on your self level? All right. And there's a lot of Instagram reels that I have been recently watching which says that, skincare is not self-care, but it's not true. Do skincare, do hair care, do whatever care you want to do. Because at the end of the day, it is, trust me, going to add up to your mental health. Because every small win that you have, no, every small uphill that you go, it adds to your mental health. It makes you happy. It makes you want to smile. And that is what we want at the end of the day, because when you're working or studying 7 to 8 hours, you are in a stressful condition. You're responsible for so many things. So when you're home, no, you need to have that 1 or 2 hours to yourself when you're just chilling and doing things that you want to do. And please turn off your phones. These phones are a very big mess. Just turn off your phone and just live however you want to. That's it.
So we need to take out time for ourselves, like in how much ever busy lives we are having, just to
Correct,
keep
correct.
that peace and keep our sanity also.
Correct, because Tushar, one thing you will see when a person is distressed, no, they may not be engaging into a lot of work, but they will still have time to sit and overthink and
Yeah,
think about how bad their life is, how distortions basically, that सब कुछ मेरे साथ ही खराब होता है, that if I'm smiling too much रात को तो मैं पक्का रोऊंगी. These kind of things. You have the time to sit and think and dwell and make hypothetical stories in your mind, so why not put that time into action doing something that you will love at the end of the day?
definitely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, So moving on to the next section of today's episode, let's dive into therapies now.
Okay.
Uh, so mental health care often includes therapy, but there are so many different types of therapies out there, and it can be a bit hard to navigate for someone who's just like getting into it. So could you give us
Yeah.
an overview of some of the most common therapies?
Okay. So currently, if I'm talking about common therapies, then one thing you will, I'm sure all of you here also must have heard is about CBT. That is cognitive behavioral therapy. This is one therapy that is widely used by a lot of psychologists, primarily because in a very short duration, it can give you more effects, long-term effects. All right. So, like in traditional therapies or psychoanalysis, if I'm talking about Freudian theories, you have to go for so many sessions. But who has that time nowadays, to go for so many sessions?
Yeah.
Like as a psychologist, also with so many clients coming, you try to, help a client as much as possible, but as quickly as possible as well. You know, so CBT has been proven to be really helpful. All right. But having said that, that does not mean it will work out for every single person. Okay. So now, it's a very trial and error method, and it is not about the intelligence of the person or personality of the person. Sometimes it just doesn't click. It's like when you go to your college, first day of college, you see some people and you just know that you can't be friends with them. And
Yeah.
then you see some people and you are like, this will be my friend. And you stick for the remaining 2 years of college.
Yeah.
So you can actually gauge what can work for you, what cannot work for you. Simply like that. So you have CBT, you have something known as REBT, that is rational emotive behavioral therapy. Mindfulness therapies actually are very, very common nowadays, especially with the older generation, my parents, grandparents generation. Because mindfulness does not require you to do a lot of talk therapy. It is more of experiential and more related towards the relaxation realm of it. So that is something which has been proven really useful and helpful. Then there is hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy, trust me, is really taking a high momentum. Like I remember when I joined the organization, and our co-founder Radhika Goyal, she is a clinical hypnotherapist. So when I joined, even in the interview, I told her that I will join, but will you teach me hypnotherapy? Because this is something I really wanted to learn, really wanted to learn. And with hypnotherapy, so many clients, they come and they tell me that I saw your profile that you're a clinical hypnotherapy. Can you just do that on me? But you see, clinical hypnotherapy is just one other form of therapy. There are so many other
Yeah.
therapies that I practice. But clients, they actually specifically want clinical hypnotherapy also, because you have so much gossip and drama that you have heard about clinical hypnotherapy, no? So it is very interesting to actually experience it. So I think these are, and also expressive arts therapy. So in expressive art, which is an integrative form of art therapy, you have music therapy, art therapy, dance therapy, sand therapy. And as a matter of fact, if you're doing art therapy, it's actually beneficial if you're not good in art. Because if you're good in art, your perspective would be ki, chalo, let me decorate the picture.
Yeah.
But when you're not good in art, you will just make like a stick figure. So it's very easy to interpret you then. Right. So these are just, you can say, some of the most common therapies that we have been using apart from talk therapy, of course. And these have also been proven to be really, really successful in our culture as well.
That's a great overview, and I think I would go for art therapy if I am supposed to go for any therapy because I'm really bad at art. So so we can see that there are therapies for all stages of life, all pe like different people in their different stages of life with their different work timings and different schedules that they might have. So
Hmm.
therapy, but at the same time seems so personal. And how does someone typically figure out which therapy might be right for them?
It's a very good question, Tushar. Now, supposedly, hypothetically, if I am your psychologist, Tushar psychologist basically, and Tushar is coming for his first session, right? So, as a psychologist, it's my duty as well to make sure to know what will be your best fit, because you may not be from the psychology background, so you may not exactly know which therapy to use, how therapy will look like. So, you are already coming with a lot of overwhelming feeling because you don't know what you're signing up
Yeah.
for. So honestly, the duty, the responsibility falls on me to explain you what are the types of therapies and what is it that might be your best fit. So usually personality is something that really helps us understand. So to make it a little bit more technical, supposedly your personality is supposedly you have a very dominant personality. All right, supposedly a very authoritative personality, where if I tell you that, Tushar, can you please take a seat? You will be like, I'll stand, I'll not sit. So you might become that sort of, you might have that sort of a personality. Now, in your personality, if I'm trying to use any of the behavioral school like CBT, REBT, or any other related therapy, it will not be much successful, because you don't want to have instructions. You don't want someone to tell you what to do, what not to do. So you will anyhow not listen to me. So anyhow, it will not work for you. But if supposedly Tushar, you are that person, you are like, yeah, Spreeha, whatever you tell, I'll do it. Na, bas mere ko theek kar do jaldi jaldi. If you are not that personality, someone who is more easygoing, more flexible in nature, then behavioralism will work really well with you, because behavioralism directly focuses on the healthy and unhealthy behaviors, on healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms. So now I know in your personality, if I do this, you will much easily be able to get used to the therapy, and you'll actually end up doing all the homeworks that I ask you to do. So personality makes a very big change here. Apart from that, it also depends on how much time a person has, how much money a person has. Sometimes when you're coming with limited money or limited session fees, now see, session fees are also the bread and butter of psychologists, right? So obviously they also have to eat and earn from it. But then again, when you know that your client cannot afford more than 6 sessions, so you have to curate your plan in such a way that your therapies are more short term. But because you're trying to make it short term, you have to remember that you may not be able to focus on the entire issue at once or the interrelated issue. So in that case, you can do something called a therapy called as SFBT. That is solution focused behavioral therapy. You can do hypnotherapy as well, because on average, hypnotherapy requires about 6 to 7 sessions only. That is also something that you can do. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And yes, another very important thing when we are doing any sort of psychotherapy with a client, first we psychoeducate them that, this is the type of psychotherapy I'm going to do. Now, even when I'm explaining you a concept, you will be able to say if this is something that will interest you or not. If it is
Yeah.
not interesting, you will not proceed with it. Simple as that. But that is the reason why today psychologists, they really have to keep learning a lot of psychotherapies. Lot of psychotherapies. You have to have an eclectic approach. You cannot be like, Spreeha Bezbaruah, counseling psychologist, CBT practitioner. I just can't be that. I have to have CBT, I have to have trauma, I have trauma informed, I mean. I have to have so many different types of psychotherapies. Only then I will actually be able to take more clients, and I will honestly be able to help them by personalizing the therapy sessions for them. So that's one way of knowing what basically is the best fit.
That's so interesting. I mean, it's not just an individual's duty, but the psychologists
Hmm.
also help us in selecting the best kind of therapy that is suitable for us.
True, true.
So before we dive into hypnotherapy, could you please
Hmm.
share some of the biggest myths that you have encountered regarding therapy?
So, Tushar, have you watched the movie Shaitan?
Yes.
Yes, what do you think about the movie?
Shaitan was like a one-time watch for me.
Hmm.
I like the concept. I like the cinematography, but overall, I think it went a bit too overboard with the
Hmm.
story.
Hmm. Like a lot of people, they watched the movie. It was very uncomfortable, certain
Yeah,
scenes,
yeah.
especially. But a lot of people have started believing after Shaitan that that's how hypnotherapy works. And I'm not kidding. On our Instagram, we got a query of a girl who messaged and who said that she also asked the question, like, have you watched Shaitan? And one of our team member had replied that, yes, we have watched. How can we help you with that? And that's when she says that, so we saw that you're a psychologist, a clinical hypnotherapist. Can you teach me how to do that? Because I also want to do that. So, and she was very serious about it. That wasn't like even a joke from her end. So, you see, when you have these kind of movies also, no, it actually adds on to the stereotype that is already there. So, the biggest stereotype that comes from that movie or similar movie is that I can literally control everything that you say, everything that you do. Like I control your function, I control your brain. But that is not possible only.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That is very godlike. It's just not possible. But people think that is. People think that, with hypnotherapy, you can take control and you can make the person do some sort of things. It's not true. Like, apart from that, also, a lot of people think that with hypnotherapy, you get stuck in trance, but you can't get stuck in trance. Those are visualizations. That is your subconscious. You can't ever get stuck somewhere. But people also think that you get stuck. People also think that you will end up saying things that you don't want to say. But even when you go into a state of trance, no, Tushar, you will only say the things that you want to say. Even when you're visualizing some things, and I'm asking you that, Tushar, can you please verbalize whatever you're visualizing? You will only tell me if you want to say, even in a state of trance. And after waking up, to anyhow, half the time you may feel like, ki bolu ki na bolu. So that's another thing. But everything is so much in control, so much in control. But it's just that there has been so many movies, no, where you see someone is controlling someone. So people think that, maybe it's true or maybe something of that sort can happen, but it actually can't. Like they look at clinical hypnotherapists as if they're like witches, that, they can do something. Like to think about it so beautiful, because I think witches look very beautiful. But then again, like it's not possible, none of it is possible. So yeah,
Interesting. I mean, that's the general notion of hypnosis. We
correct.
like generally people think of it as a stage show only because that's what we have
Hmm,
like grown up watching and learning. That
true.
hypnosis is a stage show where someone takes control of your brain and your body.
True. And I'm so
Yes.
sorry, Tushar, to cut you, but because you mentioned the word stage, no? So I just want to add on to that what we practice is called clinical hypnotherapy. Clinical itself means that we are dealing with mental health
Yeah.
concerns, and it's not hypnotize, it's hypnotherapy. That means we are using hypnosis as a form of psychotherapy. So that's very different, but what we see on stage, that is called stage hypnosis, right? So you must have seen that magician will do this, and
Yeah.
then people just fall, so all of that happens, and I have no clue how that happens, and I would have loved to know how that happens. And apparently they use hypnosis for that, but then again, that is a different school altogether. It does not come under psychotherapy. Any psychologist who has a diploma, who has learned, actually has a certified degree of clinical hypnotherapy, will not do stage hypnosis. They will always perform clinical hypnotherapy only. Hypnosis specifically for treating clients and helping clients, not for entertainment. Yeah.
So, what exactly is hypnotherapy? I mean, how is it then different from stage hypnosis?
Okay. So clinical hypnotherapy, basically, it is another form of psychotherapy in which we primarily directly focus on the subconscious part of our mind. So, our subconscious is that part of the mind. Now, obviously, when I say conscious, subconscious, unconscious, they don't have a structural element. The brain is the
Yeah.
structural element. Our mind is and these three parts are somewhere here. All right. So it is believed that, and also when I say from clinical hypnotherapy, we focus on two parts. There is conscious and then there is subconscious. So our subconscious is believed to have all the information. Everything that you have ever been through, everything that you have ever been through, right? And our conscious is that logical mind that is always questioning, that is overthinking, that is, you know, upset or happy. It's very conscious in nature. Now, what happens is that most of our concerns are so deeply rooted that our conscious mind is not even aware of, because your conscious mind moves on, right? There are so many other things you have to worry about, so
Yeah.
you don't hold on to it, but your subconscious mind holds on to it. So what clinical hypnotherapy does is, in a state of trance, that is in a state of relaxation, you try to focus on the subconscious and you try to see where exactly the problem is. What exactly can be done to help the client in that case? There is something called as age regression that we do as part of hypnotherapy. So before I go into age regression, Tushar, do you know what is age regression? Have you heard about it?
No, never,
No?
never heard of this.
Okay. So that is also like a very spicy topic in hypnotherapy that a lot of students ask about. So age regression is basically that. So I'm 25 years old. If you are supposedly doing age regression on me, that means first you will put me into a state of trance. State of trance means relaxation. No
Yeah.
other form, anything, just basic relaxation. Okay? Where there will be breath control, there will be muscle relaxation, there will be a little bit of deepener. After that, you will slowly ask me, you're speaking to my subconscious, but you won't say like Spreeha's subconscious is going to be now. You can slowly go back. So we go back to my previous age. So I'm
Okay.
25. So you will ask me to visualize myself at the age of 22, because that is still something I can relatively remember,
Yeah.
right? Then slowly we go to 18. Then, in thode intervals, we go back to a age that I, during talk therapy, might have mentioned to you that this is one age that I don't
Okay.
remember what happened.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
slowly I go back so that there is a momentum to it. All right. And then, because in our subconscious we have all the information stored, and because the entire process is so systematic and standardized in nature, I actually start getting visualizations. Now, this is not me becoming like, having um scenes or pictures of something else. This is my life that I have lived, and because of my memory and retention, now it's coming back to my consciousness. That is it. So it's not like these are images which don't exist, they very well exist. So now the visualizations that come, I'm now looking at it, that where exactly the problem lies or what exactly actually happened. So that is how I can focus on age regression, going back to a previous age, because a lot of our concerns, no, they're very childhood rooted, and
Hmm.
that is why we don't even know why I am like the way I am.
Yeah.
Because you just say things like मैं तो ऐसी ही हूँ. But why? Where is that coming from? Like you will see people in relationships. You will see this one person who is so secured, so secured, like whatever you say, we'll just figure it out together. And then you will see the partner, जिसको जब गुस्सा आता है, they will just slam the door and they leave. And then they feel guilty about it, but they also leave. So that is actually an anxious attachment style. So now, why do you have this attachment style? It's coming from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Where an attachment style is something we learn from our childhood. So where is that coming from? So age regression sometimes also helps us understand if there was any traumatic instance because of which you are who you are today. And only then we can deal with the problem, right? So subconsciously is what we focus on. And age regression is just one part of it. Apart from that, clinical hypnotherapy can be for basic relaxation, it can be for public speaking, it can be for stuttering, stammering, anything as a matter of fact, like you name it, and I'm sure I'll tell you, yes, that clinical hypnotherapy can be used for this.
Great. That clears a lot of things about hypnotherapy, and like age regression is something that definitely I'll look into it further.
Hmm.
So again, coming back to the last part of your answer, what type of issues can hypnotherapy actually address specifically?
Hmm. So I can tell you what issues it does not address, because
Sure,
apart from these two, it addresses every single issue in this world.
sure.
Right? So when a person has paranoid schizophrenia, that means here a person is constantly under the fear or constantly under the suspicion that someone is out there to harm them. Someone is out there to catch them and, trouble them. And so because you're paranoid about it, and these are also hallucinations that is happening at the same time, right? And when a person is under the state of psychosis, for them, their reality is real. You can't, when they're having an episode, you can't hold their hand and tell them, no, no, you are just thinking about it. There is no one outside the door. If they're telling you someone is outside the door, that means someone is outside the door. So you can't just verbalize and try to make them feel better, because for them, it's a reality. So with paranoid psychosis, or with paranoid schizophrenia, we cannot do clinical hypnotherapy because hypnosis requires you to also close your eyes eventually. Or, when you're relaxed, you will anyhow want to close your eyes. But what happens that you start becoming all the more fearful that what if I close my eyes and someone comes and harms me?
Yeah.
And what if you have an episode at that point of time? So that is why with paranoid schizophrenia, we try not to use clinical hypnotherapy. And
Okay.
apart from that, there is depression with suicidal ideations, in which we don't use it. Because, hypnotherapy uses a lot of visualizations for your treatment. So now, um, if supposedly you have depression with suicidal ideations and you have come for clinical hypnotherapy for maybe procrastination concerns. Okay, my suggestions would be related to procrastinations only, like the script that I use.
Yeah.
But when you are visualizing, and supposedly I'm telling you that there is a beach that you are on because maybe you love beaches and you're having a wonderful time, you can feel the air on your face, and I'm trying to make it as relaxing and soothing for you. But the fact that you're looking at the water body, and because you have suicidal ideations, your next thought would be that let me do something and harm myself. So you're already predisposed to think that way because of neuroplasticity that happens in depression. So because of that, depression with suicidal ideations also, we don't do hypnotherapy.
Okay. So basically, hypnotherapy addresses all kinds of general mental health issues that anyone might be facing in
Yes.
their life.
Yes, yes, true. Anything.
Great. So my next question to you is, if someone were to try hypnotherapy for the first time, what would they
Hmm.
expect like from a typical session?
Okay, so in a typical session of hypnotherapy, you come with a goal in mind that this is what I want to achieve at the end of my sessions. So that
So,
is something that anyhow will be dealt with. But when you come for hypnotherapy, one of the very first things that every hypnotherapist does is something called as a susceptibility test. So, that helps us understand. So basically, you have to roll your eyes, we have to see the sclera, a little technical like that. So all of that happens. So that helps us understand how quickly you can go into trance, because before we form an intervention plan for you, I first need to see whether or how quickly you can go into trance or not.
yeah,
Because if supposedly going into trance or simply relaxing takes you a lot of time, in that case, the kind of suggestions, the kind of scripts that I give you, they also have to be longer in nature because it's taking you longer to go into relaxed state. But supposedly, you are someone who is used to meditating. So, you can just sit like this and quickly go into state of relaxation. In that case, even a shorter script works for you, right? So
got
that is one of the first things we do. After that, we do a questionnaire which is called as a suggestibility. The first one was susceptibility, that means how susceptible you are. Next is suggestibility. So there are physical suggestibles and emotional suggestibles. So the when I keep saying, script, that is basically what I am telling my client.
So,
Those are my verbal suggestions that I give my client when they're in a state of trance. Now, these
okay.
verbal suggestions need to be personalized, right? So they can either be physical or emotional. Physical, if you are a physical suggestible, then the kind of suggestions that I give for you will be very different than if you are an emotional suggestible, because you have to relate to the script. If I'm telling you that you are sitting at the top of a tree, you may suddenly feel like, but I hate climbing trees. Why should
Yeah.
I sit on the top of a tree?
Yeah.
So automatically now you are not relaxed. You are rather like, what is she talking about? So that will break your state instantly. So I have to personalize it according to you as well. So these are the two things that will primarily happen. And the third thing that we always practice with our clients before actually doing goal setting with them, that is breathing awareness and progressive muscle relaxation, because that is something you can do for yourself also on a day-to-day basis. Breathing awareness, that means specifically breath control, calming your body down to know how your breath can actually have different circumstances for your body, especially that. Next is progressive muscle relaxation. That means either from top to bottom or bottom to top. You slowly and slowly, progressively relax every muscle of your body. So that is something you can do for basic stress management also, just relaxation. Because as even in researches, if you study any stress that we have, no, we store it in different parts of our body, because the stress has to go somewhere,
Yeah.
right? It's not
Yeah.
just in the mind. You feel it physically. So you store it physically in your different parts. So that is when we also do PMR. So clients also, they get an understanding कि chalo hypnotherapy में something like this will happen. They are not instantly going into that, but they have an idea that this will happen. So after this, that is when we start with the proper goal setting for whichever they came or for whatever reason they came.
Got it. So basically, the first session doesn't start directly with the hypnosis, per
No,
se, with the client.
no,
You
no.
you get to know the client, you get to know each other, you get to build that relationship, and then after that, you then suggest the best possible way further.
True,
Uh,
true.
so this has also got me curious. Is it possible for someone to self-hypnotize?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, yes. Tushar, like sessions happens only once a week, right? Now, what about the remaining 6 days? There has to be some sort of self work, right? Otherwise, for not even 45 minutes, for 20 minutes, I will keep reading a script to you. But that is only 20 minutes out of all the hours remaining in the week. So it does not always might help you. If there's a specific goal, you will also have to keep practicing it. So as a psychologist also, what we do, the script that we are reading, we make a simpler script for it that a person can self use it also. So what you can do is, if I give you a script, you can only audio record yourself, and then maybe before going to bed or maybe early in the morning, you can play it for yourself. That also
Okay.
helps you, because in self hypnosis, it's not like something happens to you. No, you are just in a state of relaxation and trance. Ultimately, it's that only. And your subconscious is anyhow listening to the audio. So it works out.
Got it, got it. So that's really good advice. And like, so it's not necessary for hypnotherapy just to be in the like with a psychologist. People can
Correct,
actually
correct,
sit back
correct.
at home and like get the
Hmm,
benefits from that. So now
correct.
pretty sure many people listening are curious about whether hypnotherapy could work for them. So what would you say to someone who's on the fence about trying it?
Hmm. So I think if you're on the fence about trying anything in life, you should try it. Because otherwise you will never know if it worked out or not for you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think definitely go book a session. And you can be very honest with your psychologist about that I am just coming for one session because I just want to experience what relaxation feels like, what the state of trance feels like. So then the goal will be made very differently for you. So accordingly only they will do it for you, right? Then you don't have to sit for 6 to 7 sessions, but you should definitely try it, because I think it's very interesting. I think the fact that subconsciously you get to see so many things, you get to learn so many things, it is amazing. It is amazing. Like one activity that I can recommend Tushar and any of the viewers and listeners here, that is that, and this is one activity that I also did during my classes. So try to get a picture of yourself when you were like really, really young, very young. Okay, maybe you were like 3 4 years old, and usually what happens is we don't really remember what happened when you were 3 or 4 years old. But get that picture, look at that picture, And for some time, just sit with it. Take a deep breath in, slowly breathe out as slowly as possible. Try to clear your mind and just try to keep visualizing about that picture. Slowly, slowly, just try to keep thinking that, okay, at the age of 20, I was like this, at the age of 15, 10, keep going back, and then comes at the age of 3. Try to see what images come to your mind. For 80% people, I can say that, if you are like in a really relaxed state, you will start recalling bits and pieces of, okay, wait, I did this that day, or this happened to me that day. You may not know exactly everything about the day, but you will have bits and pieces of information coming to your mind. You just need to relax for your subconscious to come forward. That is it. Just conscious ko niche karo, subconscious aage aa jayega. But you all can try this.
Definitely, definitely. I will be surely trying this right after this session.
Okay.
So that brings us to the end of this episode.
Hmm.
Any last words that you might have for the viewers or listeners for the podcast?
Okay, so I think if we are talking about mental health specifically, or even if we are talking about clinical hypnotherapy, one thing is that, you know, just because the podcast is about clinical hypnotherapy, you don't have to go and try clinical hypnotherapy, but go to your psychologist if you want to take up therapy and just see what kind of modalities might best work for you. Maybe you can try expressive arts therapy. For so many people, art therapy has been proven to be so helpful. If you are a dancer and you love to, express yourself with the help of dance, go for a dance movement therapy workshop. If not a therapy, but go for a workshop, you will get an understanding. But don't refrain from taking therapy because so many people have told you so many negative things. For some people it worked out, for some people it didn't. You never know what will be your experience with it, right? And there can never ever be any side effects of therapy. There can never be a side effect. Therapy is, because it's not, it is so beautifully, it is going to be personalized for you. Just make sure that you give it a try. But even when you're giving it a try, make sure that the person is licensed, the person has a degree. Don't just go to someone who has a lot of followers on Instagram. Go to someone with a valid degree, and trust me, you may not find your best fit in the first or the second session, but you will definitely find it. But just keep an open mind, and you never know what might just really work out for you. But it is worth trying, I can assure you that.
Thank you, Spriya. It has been such an enlightening conversation. I
Thank
feel
you
that
so
we
much.
have only scratched the surface with what integrative therapies and hypnotherapy can do. And it's clear
Hmm.
that there's so much potential for healing with these approaches.
Hmm.
So before we wrap up, I just want to take a moment to express our sincere gratitude. Thank you for taking out the time and sharing the incredible knowledge and insights with us today. Your expertise on mental health and hypnotherapy have been invaluable.
All
Thank you,
right. Thank you
Spriya.
so
Thank
much,
you.
Tushar
Have a
and
nice
team.
day.